Welcome once again to this series of reflections. Each time we're taking one topic that is an issue for all of us in the human family today, one challenge that's urgent and which we have to face. And this time it's, I think, quite obvious. What am I doing with the bank statements and the calculator? A challenge to all of us. Perhaps a more profound and urgent challenge than we actually realize. Just think of the role that finances and trade play in the life of our whole global family. For example, you will have noticed over the last 2 years that 4 seemingly unlikely countries to join together in any world project would be those that have formed the association called BRICS. I don't think you could have missed it, but just as a reminder, BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Large and powerful countries in each of 4 of our 5 continents. Now, what would have drawn these countries together? Trade and political power. Quite recently, for the time that I'm speaking to you now, BRICS has launched a World Bank. It isn't still quite clear whether they're aiming at a world currency to challenge the dollar and the euro, but certainly finance is being used here for political advantage, for support and agreement across 4 continents. It's not new that we use trade for political advantage. We're used to the idea that if one country is causing a war or a disruption somewhere on the planet, other countries will band together, like the United Nations, and bring in trade sanctions against that country, economic sanctions, in hoping to assert political pressure. We don't really know how high a proportion of human energy is given to matters of trade or finance, but surely it must be very high. Whether it's people who are involved in the International Monetary Fund, the G7 or G8, as it used to be, summits, or whether it's me myself just wondering how far I can make my monthly salary or my weekly wage support my family, or whether I'm an old person wondering whether my retirement pension would give me the luxury of a couple of days to visit a relative, or even just enough to eat for the next month or the next week. Money, wealth, trade. We're all involved in it to some extent. And just how much of our time and energy is given to this one topic. If you forgive me, I'll share an incident from my own early childhood. I must have been about 4.5 years of age when we were having the usual family Sunday lunch. My parents were there, my grandmother, and my 2 older sisters, elder to me by 10 years plus. So I was definitely out of my depth with the family conversation. However, it was really very agitated and sometimes angry on this occasion. I really still don't know what the topic actually was, but I remember making a big leap forward into maturity when, being angry at being excluded for so long, I raised my voice and said, "Well, why do we need money anyway?" It was shattering. There was total silence. Much later in life, I wondered whether the silence was caused by the fact that nobody could be bothered to try and explain to a 4.5-year-old what this matter of international trade, why it was so urgent. Or whether it was because they'd heard the question for the first time. The why question. After a short pause, the conversation continued, but not with the same issue or the same excitement and anger. And I never got an answer to my question. In fact, perhaps there is no answer to the question. Why is trade, wealth, finances? Why are they so important? Why do they dominate the lives, the goals, the happiness of such a large proportion of our human family? Is there no answer to this? Well, yes, of course, there is an answer. And a very simple one, but as usual, a very difficult one. As human beings, we have the instinct of territoriality. This is my territory. We share it with the lions and tigers and everything else. We mark out my possessions, and nobody else comes in here or uses that without my permission. It's mine. The instinct to possess we have overdeveloped, unfortunately, as human beings. And yes, again, we see it developing very early. Go to any kindergarten or any family you know, perhaps even your own small children, or children you remember when they were small, and you see something happening. He has a football. He has a toy train. They look at each other. The boy with the football wants the train, and the boy with the train wants the football. Now, it might just be that some negotiator helps them to exchange their treasures for a while, but it will only be for a while. Very quickly, the boy with the football grabs it back, and the boy with the toy train grabs his toy back. But that isn't the end. I have my toy train, and I want it, and I'm going to keep it. But I also want your football. And if I can get it, I'm going to, and I'm going to keep it. When I have both, I will be more important than you. Even if I cannot use my toy train and my football simultaneously, I want what you have, and I want to get it. Envy. We see it at the level of toys in the kindergarten. We see it in international relations at the level of oil fields or nuclear reactors. We have our oil fields, you have your nuclear power plant. I'm not giving up my oil field, but I want your nuclear power plant, or the other way around. Envy of another's possessions, and willingness to do anything to get what the other has. Now, we've been looking back at our current crisis situations and challenges and seeing that we've met them before often, all through our history. And we've found different ways of handling it. And some of the wisest are the ones we have known from the beginning. I go back to that short book in the Vedic tradition, the Upanishads, and to that one verse which Mahatma Gandhi said gives humanity all the answers it needs, the advice and the warnings. And I just quote this verse number 1 in full. Behold the universe in the glory of God, and all that lives and moves on earth. Leaving what is passing, find your joy in what is not passing. Do not envy another's possessions, for whose is wealth? It couldn't be simpler. It is, in fact, it brings us down with our feet on the ground. Whose is wealth? To be truthful, no one owns anything on planet Earth. The planet has not been sold to us. No section of any of this planet has been sold to any nationality or culture or religion. We don't own it. We didn't bring this planet, this universe, into existence. We haven't been the source of its unfolding. All we can say is that we have been gifted with the exploration and the joy of it in time. Can we not be contented with the use we can make, the development, the protection we can give the environment, and all that we possess on planet Earth? Can we not learn that it's for everyone and that somehow we share it? While we are discontented with this, with the abundant richness that is ours, while we are so discontented we cannot protect it, develop it, and share it, then envy will grow among us. It could be that your cabbage field is bigger than mine, or your daughter sings more beautifully than my daughter. Envy not another's possessions. Whose is wealth? We are on this planet for a very short time. And we're here to develop, enjoy, protect, and share all that is here. If we just envy the other person, his football, or his oil field, we will end up with war, fighting to get what I do not have and truly have no right to possess. Whose is wealth? If we could just root out envy from our hearts and replace it with rejoicing and contentment with what we have to develop, we really would not see so much violence and struggle and war among us as a human family. So this month, have a look and see how much time and energy do I give to being anxious about wealth and possessions. It doesn't matter how much or how little, whether it's millions or €50. If it is breeding envy in my heart, it is destructive. Even if I have millions, and what it is helping me to do is to learn how to develop and share those millions of dollars or euros or whatever, then it is a good thing. Do not envy another's possessions, for whose is wealth? When you sit to do any of your calculations this week about the money you have in your purse or in the bank, perhaps you could ask yourself that question and even laugh at the answer.